Well, good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome members, officers, and members of the public to the Southern Rural Area Committee. I would like to bring members' attention that there was an error in the agenda that was published. It included the minutes from the Hitchin Committee on the 26th of May. There's now been a supplementary agenda published containing the minutes from the Southern Rural Committee on the 26th of May, which we might be more familiar with. And before the meeting starts, I'd like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer to explain how proceedings will work.
Thank you, Chair. Before we start, can I just confirm that the officers joining remotely can hear and can be heard? Amy Flack?
Yes.
In accordance with council policy, this meeting is being audio recorded and filmed. The recordings will be available to listen to on ModGov and YouTube. If a member wishes to speak, they should use the speak button located on the microphone unit. Please wait for the chair's invitation before you begin. When requested to vote, voting will be via the yes, no, abstain buttons on your microphone unit. Details of how members voted will be shown on the screens around the room, and the result will be visible on the YouTube stream. In the event of a tied vote, the chair will have the casting vote. Are there any questions before we start the meeting? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, splendid. So item 2 is apologies for absence. I have apologies from councillors Ian Moody and Lisa Nash. Are there any further apologies? Okay. So item 3 is minutes of the previous meetings on the 3rd of March and the 26th of May. I would like to propose that we take as read and approve as a true record the minutes of the meetings of the committee held on the 3rd of March and the 26th of May. May I have a seconder? Councillor Strong.
I'm happy to second. Can I just also ask one question on the minutes? When we did the grant application for Codicat Tennis Club, in the minutes it says that the committee would defer consideration until the next meeting. Will we get an update later? Okay, I'm getting enough of this there, thank you.
Are there any further comments on the minutes before we go to the vote? Councillor North.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry, I don't know whether it's my mistake or not, but I don't seem to have the supplementary part of the agenda, which includes the updated minutes from the 26th. So I'm happy to approve the ones from March, but I can't accept the main ones. Thank you very much, David. All sorted, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further comments before we move to the vote? Okay, could you take us to the vote?
Chair, this motion is carried.
Splendid. Well, item 4, notification of other business. I have none. Item 5 is chair's announcements. I'd like to welcome those present, particularly speakers here to support their grant applications. I'd also like to welcome Councillor Ralph Muntzer to his first Southern Rural Committee following his election in May. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before any item. The detailed reminder of this and speaking rights set out under the chair's announcements on the agenda. Section 6 is public participation. Now, I believe the public participation relates to grant applications, and my intention would be to take the votes on those applications as they come, at which point first I'd like to invite the chair for community engagement, the community engagement officer to update members on the budget situation ahead of this.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Lovely. So the current base budget for community grants of the Southern Rural Committee from April 2022 to March 2023 is £8,700. There's also £222 brought forward from the budget last year, which leaves the budget available of £8,922. The grant applications for this meeting total £1,780, and if the members agree to award the grants, this would leave a budget balance of £142. And as mentioned by Councillor Strong, there is an update about the Codicot Tennis Club application, which was deferred from the last meeting, which was towards new LED floodlights. They have since contacted and they've been awarded the funding from elsewhere and therefore have withdrawn their application to us. The Treasurer, Maxine Sanders, wanted to pass on her thanks to the Southern Rural Committee for allowing them the opportunity to have returned in June.
Okay, thank you very much. In which case I'd like to welcome our first speakers, who I believe are Anne Warner, and Parish Councillor Yvonne Hart from Holwell Parish Council.
There we go. I think that's it. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. And on behalf of Holwell Parish Council, we really appreciate this opportunity to address the committee. Holwell is a very small parish and we don't have many houses. We have a precept of just over £9,000 per year. We have managed, after many, many years of trying, to get grants for a new pavilion. The previous pavilion was extremely dilapidated. It was costing us so much to maintain and it was becoming a danger. There was nothing in the old pavilion we could retain due to a number of reasons: damp, mice, damage, etc. So it really needed to come down. It was completely demolished, and behind you, at the side of you, you will see the new pavilion up and running. Well, it's not up and running, but it's in very good progress at the moment. And it's going to look lovely when it is. As well as the grants, the Parish Council have also contributed towards the cost of the build at a cost of approximately £10,000, which has left the Parish Council with very, very little funds to use for furnishings, crockery or anything like that. It was badly needing done. It does get used by sports clubs. We've got cricket through the summer and football during the winter. We're hoping with a new pavilion and the location of it that it will be used by many residents in the village, because it's got a huge recreation ground in front of it, which would be great for parties. A new pavilion would also possibly be used for parties, wakes, anything like that. It's got a lovely kitchen area, a storeroom, a seating area, toilets, changing rooms, referee changing rooms. And it is really going to look lovely. So we are asking for a grant tonight to help us towards the cost of a cooker, a fridge freezer, and tables and chairs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for our speakers? I believe Ralph was first. Sorry, Councillor Munster.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to ask, I think it's absolutely fantastic, but what is the expected completion of the build? Yeah.
We're hoping the end of July, August. That's it started at the end of March, beginning of April, but they had to take the whole of the other building out first, and there were no foundations, so they had to put in quite a lot of foundations because of where it is. So we're looking at the end of July, August.
Councillor Barnard.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to just say how much I admire the hard work that the Parish Council and just a minority of the villagers have put into this project. As everybody's seen, it's going to be a splendid building. It's the sports ground there is great. It's actually shared by Eccleford as well, because it is such good quality. On a shoestring, you've built a fabulous establishment building. and I certainly hope that the committee will support your application this evening. I would like to ask you, have you thought of applying maybe to other funding sources, such as, let's say, the London Luton Airport Community Fund, or?
We did try them. We didn't get anywhere at all. We tried them when we were actually looking for the money to build the pavilion. We approached them and we didn't get any money from them. We tried a couple of other sources. We tried the Cricket Foundation. I think the pandemic put a bit of a spanner in the works with a lot of things. We did manage to get something from the Football Foundation. And the reason we have referee rooms is everything because of certain aspects that they wanted from it. But we did try Luton, so we've not got anything from them. We've already obviously got money from North Herts Council, which has been absolutely fantastic. We got money from Settle Homes because they did a build in Holwell, and they gave us a chunk of money as well, and also the Rands Foundation Trust as well. So they were our main ones.
Great, thank you very much and well done.
Thank you. Councillor Strong.
Thank you. Do I have to declare an interest that I live in the village and I do know the facility? I mean, it is absolutely, it's going to be fantastic for the village. I mean, the cricket pavilion, well, it was condemned, but it is so well used. I mean, there's cricket up there through the summer all the time. And I think also now that they've got the facilities with the changing rooms and that will mean that they can be used much more for football with the Football League in the area. Can I just check, are the parish council going to do sort of bookings for the hall and charge for using the hall if it's going to be rented out and that?
It would be minimal because we want residents to be able to use it. The costs that we might charge would be towards cleaning, utilities, things like that. But
and for the recreation, cover the cost of maintaining the recreation ground. That's the main problem.
We would try and, especially for residents, we would try and keep the costs down as much as we could possibly do, because it's not a business, it's a community asset. So that's how we like to look at it. But we would be charging something because of the cleaning that would need to be done afterwards and everything like that.
So if there are no more questions for our speakers, then as I mentioned, if the committee could consider recommendation 2.2 from item 7, which is the awarding of the grant to Holwell Parish Council towards chairs, tables, cooker and fridge freezer for the new pavilion outlined in section 8.1.1 of item 7. Would anyone like to propose?
Point of order. Do we take public participation first and then move on to agenda item 7, which is a separate agenda item to public participation, or are we bundling public participation into agenda item 7?
So my intent had been to take the 2 recommendations regarding grants from agenda item 7 as part of item 6. If it's the committee's preference that we do all the participation and then do the agenda item 7 as one, then we could also do that.
I'm not fussed, Chair. We've previously done it public participation separately, agenda item 7 afterwards, but if the rest of the committee is happy to, I'm happy to propose the recommendation of £1,211 paid to Holwell Parish Council. I don't think it's any secret that I believe that as we come out of the pandemic, we need to focus very heavily on ensuring that sport and activity is accessible to as many people as possible. As has already been mentioned, Holwell is a very small village, but one with a huge heart and a very good population who are very keen to have some form of a centre for their village. So I really think that as we have already granted £50,000 as a council to the parish council for the creation of the pavilion, I think an extra 1,211 to ensure that it starts very well and has a good beginning is something that I would highly welcome and want to see done. So I'd like to propose.
Thank you very much. Councillor Barnard.
I'd like to second, if I may, please. I'm the county councillor for that area, and I would like to propose that the full amount recommended is granted. And as a seconder to that, if there are other small items which are required in the future, I would be very happy to consider from my locality budget. Just a very quick add-on to that. Everybody's invited to the wonderful, wonderful Holwell Scarecrow Festival this weekend.
Thank you. I'm sure that is noted by the committee. Councillor Strong.
Yeah, I'm very pleased to see that, and I do hope that when it is ready, that there will be an opening party, and perhaps you could invite the committee for us to come along and have a look and see how it is.
Councillor Strong came and saw when it was just the foundations and I think 2 bricks around the outside. So yes, absolutely, we will be inviting lots of people.
Village event as well to get everybody
without
out.
a doubt.
I know we didn't have a celebration for the Jubilee, but I did say I thought we ought to have the pavilion jubbly.
Yes, that's what we said. Thank you.
Councillor Munson.
I just wanted to add, from the pictures that we've seen, it looks like it's going to be an absolutely fantastic facility. I know in Kimpton we're in similar discussions to have such a facility like this, and it's great to see something of which is so far down the line. And I think that this pavilion is going to be a really fantastic community hub, which is going to be able to bring together, the residents of Holwell, both young and old. And I wish you all the success, very best for the future.
Okay, unless there are any more comments, I would like to go to the vote.
Chair, this motion is carried.
Fantastic, and congratulations.
Thank you ever so much. Really appreciate it.
At which point I'd like to introduce our second speaker, Claire Gooden of the River His Conservation Group. I don't see why not.
It's on, is it? Yes, it's right. Okay. Good evening. My name is Claire Gooden. I'm the coordinator of the River His Conservation Group based in Ickleford. I'm also an Ickleford Parish Councillor. And Hilary, you'll see in various pictures up on the side. Thank you for this opportunity to present the work done by the RHCG. I'm very grateful for the NHDC startup grant that the group received in 2021, although due to COVID restrictions, we had to wait until August 2021 to carry out our first river project. The slideshow illustrates the sort of work done by the RHCG volunteers. Now, we walk or drive past our local rivers every day and seldom give them more than a passing glance, yet they need our help. Chalk streams are very rare rivers. They're spring-fed from deep reservoirs of rainwater held in the chalk bedrock. There are only about 200 in the whole world, of which 85% are found in the south of England, and North Herts has 3 of these. The River His and its 2 main tributaries, the rivers Purwell and Orton. They have a fragile environment created by clean, clear water at a constant temperature, supporting very special wildlife habitats and species. Specialized plants in the riverbed control the water flow. The clean gravelly riverbed supports the insect life necessary to feed all the other animals which share the river, and it provides an important place for fish like brown trout to lay their eggs. Unfortunately, chalk streams face numerous threats, including over-abstraction of groundwater to supply our homes and workplaces, pollution, invasive non-native species, destruction or disturbance of banksides and floodplain habitats. It's very important that the value of these globally rare, beautiful and diverse ecosystems is recognised and that they're restored and protected for present and future generations. That is why Ickleford Parish Council and the Herts and Middlesex Wildlife Trust launched a shared initiative in 2019, the River His Conservation Group, known as the RHCG, to involve local people who are interested in the improvement and protection of the precious chalk streams in Ickleford and the surrounding areas. 96 people attended the first meeting. The Living Rivers officer from the Herts and Middlesex Wildlife Trust created a 5-year plan to protect and conserve the rivers for future generations. This plan was adopted by Ickleford Parish Council in 2020. There is a core number of about 20 people who volunteer to carry out the physically demanding work in the river. There are several alternative projects for those who prefer other types of involvement, and the Wildlife Trust offer training to volunteers to survey for water vole, mink and riverfly. Other projects are planned, for example, website design, educational groups, newsletters and information boards. This ongoing project is dependent on working to a seasonal calendar so that we protect the fragile environment of the flora and fauna of the river. The RHCG is also called upon to provide volunteer work groups if work is required, as happened in the gales 3 months ago when many fallen tree branches came down, and we've been unblocking the river in various places. The work of the RHCG relies on volunteers and the guidance of the Herts and Middlesex Wildlife Trust. Before any projects can be carried out, there are essential expenses to be covered, including a 3-year Environment Agency permit, annual public liability insurance, protective safety clothing suitable for entering the water, suitable tools for the work, and professional training and supervision of volunteers. Therefore, the cost of this year's phase of the restoration plan includes £200 for public liability insurance, £650 for 2 full days of supervised river work by the Wild Trout Trust, £450 for 100 chestnut stakes for riverbank work, £115 for additional chest waders, because these don't last forever. They're rather like bicycle tires. They need fixing. And £140 for a garden trolley cart so we can transport our tools and equipment to whatever site we're working in. This makes a total of £1,555. Donations have been received totaling £986. Therefore, this application for the RHCG's project is requesting £568. The cost of river conservation and maintenance is considerable. The Wildlife Trust is currently seeking upwards of £10,000 for major work on a small part of the River His, but the RHCG is a volunteer force, so our expenses are kept keeping the group well equipped and safe. Chalk streams need urgent protection. The RHCG is very aware of the great responsibility of having 3 of these globally rare ecosystems to care for now and for future generations. I hope you'll consider this application for funding, and thank you very much for listening.
Well, thank you very much. I must admit I'm more acquainted with the Ivor myself than the His, but I completely agree with the importance of the conservation work on these.
And the His goes up to the Ivor.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Not that well acquainted, obviously. Are there any questions for our speakers? Councillor Munser.
Thank you, Chair. I know it's only a minor detail, but in the report it says that the sum requested is £569, and in your contribution you said it was 568. I was just wondering which one is the correct figure.
Yes, definitely 69.
I think that's to do with the balance of things that have been paid in between beginning of the year and this probably, but I've put in for 568.95p. So
Yes, that's correct. I just rounded it up to 569.
thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're very generous. Thank you.
Councillor Strong.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I have to say the work that this group does, and I do walk there and along by the side of the river, along where it goes past Ickleford Common, and I always enjoy watching the swans when they come back every year and have their signets. And we have to preserve and do what we can for this, and I would be very happy to actually move the recommendation of 569, and I hope somebody would like to second that.
Councillor Barnard.
Well, of course, I'd second that. Maybe as a point of information, there is another chalk stream, which is the Mimram, which actually flows under my cottage and along and surfaces somewhere around about the Whitwell crest beds. Yeah. I mean, it's essential that we keep these streams well maintained to ensure adequate flows and oxygenation, and they remain a healthy habitat for animals and river inhabitants, as well as the flora and fauna. And it's a messy, horrible job, and it's an ongoing job. I mean, it isn't a one-off, and then all of a sudden you don't have to do it again. It's a 12 months of the year job. There's always something else, and I think you do a wonderful job. I would like to second the proposal, and not only that, I would like to offer 50% increase through my county locality budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnard. Councillor North.
Thanks very much, Chair. I didn't realise we'd finished asking questions already, but as we've moved on to the debate now, I will contribute. I was sat in this chamber this time last week, and I don't think it'll be to any surprise of anyone who was watching the YouTube channel or who was in the room at the time, my enormous disappointment and frustration when Affinity Water were awarded planning consent to continue to pump water out of the aquifer that feeds many of the chalk streams, and there was only one councillor on that committee who didn't vote for the application, considering its potential.
Point of order, this is a grant application for a group in Ickleford. I'm not sure that we need to be talking about the planning meeting that we had last week.
I think I'm allowed to speak for 5 minutes, Chair, if I'm not incorrect.
I feel in as much as it relates to river conservation, it is probably relevant, but I wouldn't necessarily get into who voted which ways in a different meeting.
That's fine, Chair. I won't carry on down that line as I was finishing that sentence anyway. So I was obviously disappointed, but there is always light at the end of a dark tunnel. And I've seen the work, particularly from Claire, that she has put into this group. And you will have seen, and colleagues on this committee will have seen the pictures just of how many volunteers look after the wildlife and protect the ecology that is so important, and particularly such vulnerable and rare ecosystems. So I am delighted to hear David's additional offer of funding, because I don't think that £569 is ever going to be enough for the damage that potentially the River Hiss is facing in the near future, going back to my point that I was making. So I am more than happy to support this sum and hope that we'll get more grant applications in the future for similar activities. So thank you for all of the work that you do, because these ecosystems are crucial and vulnerable, and we need to protect them.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Munter.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I recently attended an event which was hosted by Affinity Water, where I learned all about the importance of chalk streams. But I also learned about their rarity. So I think to have 3 in North Hertfordshire and a number more in Hertfordshire, I think that's absolutely fantastic. I think it's clear that your group carries out vital work, which helps to maintain this unique feature of North Hertfordshire. But it also, of course, helps to support increased biodiversity in our area, and that only is a good thing. So congratulations and keep up your hard work.
Yes, certainly.
Just the fact that there are 12 within Hertfordshire and North Herts has 3. So there are a lot of them, but the ones in North Herts travel northwards to the Ivor, to the Great Ouse and into the Wash, which is unusual because the rest of them go down to the Thames catchment area. And it's all to do with that geographical lump by Stevenage, where the motorway goes down the hill. The rivers do the same thing, but the rivers here go north. So they're quite special. Thank you.
I absolutely agree. Do we have any more either questions for our speaker or comments on the motion? If not, then can we go to the vote?
Chair, this motion is carried.
Marvellous. Thank you very much and congratulations. So now we'll move on to the remainder of item 7, which is the grants and community updates. Amy to present.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, the sun's just coming through my window. I'll just draw that. Lovely. Yes, so I'm just going to share updates from the community engagement team we're working on, and then very happy to take questions at the end. So I joined the team in April. One of the things I've been exploring is the idea of creating a parish forum, which is a chance for parishes in the southern rural area to meet online in a fairly informal setting to connect, support and share information and events and projects that different parishes are working on. It could also be an opportunity to share best practice and also explore if there are any common issues or challenges that could be worked on together. And then it could be that some of the common areas that come up could then be brought to the Southern Rural Committee. At the moment, so I originally was looking at the idea of doing it quarterly and then reflecting on feedback and everyone having a lot on, that it might be more better to have it twice a year, the first one being in autumn, and potentially to use the first one to discuss themes which parishes want to talk about. I really just want it to work best for everyone. And so, yes, I'm very keen to discuss it further, so please do contact me. Also, as I'm new in the role, I am just very keen to get to know the area. So for any councillors that I haven't met yet and visited, I'll be very keen to learn more about how I can support in my role. Other areas that the team have been working on, we've been processing grants to utilise the Health Protection Board funding to assist the community's recovery following the COVID-19 pandemic. We have an application in and a couple others pending, and we're currently arranging a date for a panel meeting. And I also just wanted to highlight the network groups that the team work and coordinate. They're on themes such as food provision, youth action, and then I've also reintroduced the Green and Growing Network group, which is an opportunity for groups that use green spaces to support local communities to live more sustainable and healthy lifestyles. They really are just really great opportunities for groups who work on similar projects and ideas to share, connect, and having attended a number of them now, they are really wonderful, a great part of what the team do. I also just wanted to highlight our North Herts Engage Facebook page. It's where community groups can share events and where we also highlight information that might be relevant, such as grant opportunities. You're very welcome to join that if you aren't a member of our Facebook page already. And then I just wanted to finish up on updates from previous grant recipients. In the report, you will have seen there's an update from Down the Woods from Caroline Langley. The committee awarded them £890 in March last year to support costs towards forest school type sessions for adults. They had 8 participants and sound like they really benefited from the activities that the group put on, and they've shared some nice photographs in that. And then since writing the report, we've had an update from Purton Joy Care, who were awarded £750 in March by the committee for a Jubilee afternoon tea. And Elaine Derrick, Secretary of Purton Joy Care, said 74 Purton residents engaged aged 60 plus had a fantastic afternoon celebrating the Queen's Jubilee and meeting old and new friends. We decorated the hall in red, white and blue, served a fantastic afternoon tea and had live music. The feedback was fantastic and everyone seemed to really enjoy themselves. We are so grateful for the grant you awarded to Joy Care at your meeting in March, which enabled us to push the boat and arrange an event that brought so many of our more elderly community together to celebrate the Jubilee, which I really wanted to share. It's really wonderful to hear that. So that nicely concludes the community update, and I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And it's always very good to hear the feedback on the grants that this committee awards. Are there any questions? Councillor Strong.
Yes, I'd also endorse the comments about the Joy Care. I saw a number of people over the Jubilee weekend and who had attended it and said how well the party had gone. Can I also report back on the grant that we gave to the Purton Players for their new lighting system? Because I went to see Sweet Charity, which was the production that was actually coming up couple of weeks after we awarded, and they actually had all the new lights in place for that. So I was able to go and see them and talk to the lighting manager. And what the players told me about it was that with these LED lights, there's no heat from them. So actually when they're on the stage, they don't have this great sort of heat coming down on them. So they were just saying it was, fantastic for them, and they were really pleased with the grant. So just again, to thank us all for giving them that so that they could update everything, and it has really made a difference to the way that they're able to do their performances. Thank you.
Oh, again, that's very good to hear. Councillor Barnard.
Yes, just a very quick observation. £750 and 74 attendants. That's about a bottle of gin each, isn't it? So that I'm sure they did enjoy themselves. However, that was facetious. I'm glad that they enjoyed themselves. And over the years, we've been lucky to be able to support Purton Joy Care with trips out to the seaside and shopping trips and this and everything else there. So it's great to see that it is thriving and going ahead, along with many other organisations in the southern rural parishes. Now, is it Miss Fleck? Fleck. Is it Alan's daughter? Oh, is it Fleck? Oh, it's not a Fleck, it's a Fleck. Right, okay. Yeah, you said you wanted to see a little bit more southern rural. I'm sure members here would be delighted to take time to take you around their different wards. I most certainly will. I know Claire will take time as well. And Faye will, of course. Yeah. So anything you'd like to do there? I'd like to mention, whilst we're talking about the little projects, a project that has grown and thrived and is a real gem in our community is the Ickleford Larder. The Ickleford Larder was started at the beginning of the pandemic, the lockdown, and I was happy to give them a little bit of a grant lift up on that one. It's gone from strength to strength. It has a dual purpose. It has a purpose of taking food that would be normally sent to landfill and bits and pieces, and redistributing them free of charge within the community. Anybody who can afford to put a little bit of money in does so, and that has helped them to buy, only this last week or so, their new van, which will help them go around to the different supermarkets and pick up stuff. And the other very, very valuable side of their activity is to actually provide soft food and hard cans and so on and so forth to those who really are struggling. So it's a great thing in our community, and it's enjoyed not only by people in Ickleford, but from far and wide, from Baldock, from Letchworth, and all Hitchin and all around. So it's worthy of mention. So well done, everybody who supports it.
Thank you very much. If there are no more immediate questions, then turning to the recommendations on the item, recommendations 2.1 to 2.3 we have already taken. So the only remaining recommendation is 2.4, and I would be happy to propose that the committee endorse the actions taken by the community engagement team. May I have a seconder? Councillor Frost.
Happy to second.
And unless there are further comments, I would like to move to the vote.
Chair, this motion is carried.
Excellent stuff. Moving on then to item 8, which is members' reports from their ward or outside organisations. Are there any matters on which members would like to report? Councillor Munson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I wish to use this opportunity to make the committee aware of the proposed closure of the Kimpton surgery, which has been providing vital services to residents in the village for a number of years. To give members some background information on this issue, I was first made aware of the proposal in March, and in response I have written to both Bridge Cottage Surgery, which operates the Kimpton branch, and the NHS East and North Hertfordshire Clinical Commissioning Group to highlight my concerns over the plans. A public consultation was held on the 28th of March until the 11th of April, and a public meeting was held on the 27th of April, attended by a large number of residents, which in my view clearly demonstrated the strength of feeling in the community on this important issue. A decision to close the surgery would force individuals to travel elsewhere, most likely to either Welwyn, Wheat Hampstead or Harpenden, in order to access their GP and other medical services. The closure would also have a more pronounced impact upon older and vulnerable individuals, as well as those who rely on public transport, of which services to alternative locations are infrequent. I'm incredibly disappointed that although the CCG met to discuss the proposal on the 24th of May, I was denied the opportunity to address the meeting and represent the concerns of residents over the proposed plans. Chairman, over a month has passed since that meeting took place, and I have received no response from the CCG as to the decision which was made on this issue. As you can appreciate, this is very worrying, not least for the patients of the surgery, because it fails to give them the stability which they deserve. I'm sure all members in this chamber would agree with me that NHS services must remain both local and accessible to residents right across the rural communities of North Hertfordshire. And I wish to take the opportunity to reassure concerned residents in Kimpton that I will continue to seek a pragmatic solution on supporting this principle, and that I will keep them informed of any developments on this matter.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm sure that your concern is greatly appreciated in the area. Are there any comments on Councillor Munson's report or further other reports on ward matters? Councillor Barnard.
Thank you, Chair. It has come to our minds very recently that there is a proposal, not an application formally as yet, to build a massive solar park to the east of Luton. This will come out to as far as the villages of Breachwood Green, around Tea Green and so on and so forth. It will blight our beautiful green belt. We are already threatened with massive housing east of Luton. This will just actually take away all greenery that there possibly can be, any opportunity to enjoy our beautiful countryside. And I would just like to flag this up to the committee that there is as according to the developers, the proposers, there will be a formal application going in by the end of summer. It will be not subject to a pre-application. So I would ask everybody to be mindful and wary of this application and form their own opinion and support, hopefully, the villages around the east of Luton. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I am aware, in fact, of several such applications that have sprung up in my own ward as well. The feedback I've had from planning officers on them is that, of course, due to their size, they would not be considered under delegated authority. They would all go to planning committee full. So that at least is good news that that these will be decided by the planning committee when the time comes. But yes, do be aware that there are a lot of these proposals around at present. Councillor North.
Thanks very much, Chair. I just wanted to come back on the points that Councillor Munster raises, and I think hearing what he's so passionately spoken about, I too am very concerned here that a local GP surgery is closing, and something where people quite frequently access, particularly in areas where you don't particularly want to be travelling all the way into Hitchin on for a number of different reasons. I wanted to perhaps ask if he would consider bringing that as a point or as a consideration to full council, so we can perhaps write to the people who can impact those decisions, because obviously as a district council we don't have oversight over the NHS, but we do have representatives. I believe the current one is Councillor Val Bryant on the Health Scrutiny Committee, which scrutinises the health decisions across Hertfordshire, and I believe is overseen by the County Council. There's also the opportunity to write to the local MPs and see if the MPs would actually do something about it. So I think that would be a good opportunity if Councillor Munster is would like to consider bringing that to something like full council or to the representative we have on the Health Scrutiny Committee.
Thank you. Councillor Munster, would you like to come back from that?
I would. Thank you very much, Chair. I thank Councillor North for highlighting that. I thought I ought to inform the committee that our local Member of Parliament, Bima Falami, has been very heavily involved in this, as has our local county councillor, Councillor Richard Thake. I'm sure that the residents of Kimpton would greatly appreciate any support in this campaign, but rest assured that their representatives are doing all that they can to ensure that NHS services remain both local and accessible to residents.
Thank you. Councillor Barnard, I think.
Just a thought on that. I imagine everybody in this room supports exactly what Councillor Munster is saying, and I wonder if it is appropriate, and you'll give me advice on this, for this committee to actually ask that the full council have an agenda item or discussion to the effect of a motion that this council regrets the proposal of the NHS to close the surgery in Kimpton and urges them to reconsider. All words to that effect expanded upon.
Yeah, so you can make a referral to council. Yeah, that's fine. I was just sort of checking. So motions must be about matters for which the council has a responsibility and which are relevant to the district. So, I mean, yeah, you could definitely make a referral to council, and whether or not they chose to accept that.
That being the case, Councillor Barnard, was that a proposal?
Is a proposal, the wording of which obviously would need to be polished considerably.
Right. Councillor Munster, then, did you want to come back in on this?
I thank Councillor Barnard for his proposal. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I'm more than happy to second that, and I'm sure that we can find some appropriate wording to that effect.
We need some wording.
I feel like some wording would be good before we took any votes. I feel like some wording would be good before we're able to take any votes on this. I think Councillor Munster has grabbed a pen and will be passing something forward momentarily. Councillor North, did you want to come in while that happens?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, no, all I was going to say is I'm supportive of that. Obviously, I've just suggested that to Councillor Munster, so I'm not going to not support my own suggestion to Councillor Munster. If he gets some wording ready, I'm sure he doesn't need my input in that. So yeah, I will be supporting.
Councillor Strong.
While they're sorting out their wording, can I just give an update? Because on other outside bodies, for many years I have been the council's representative on the RANS Foundation, which is a charitable trust that awards educational grants to young people, I'll say, either in sixth form or at university, who live in the villages of Purton, Holwell, Ickleford and Lower Stondon. However, the charity is moving on and changing itself, and they have changing their constitution. So there is no longer going to be a representative of North Herts District Council required to sit on the board. However, she says, I have been co-opted onto the charity. I think I'm probably one of the longest member serving on it. So they have to ask me if I would become one of the governors for the charity, which I am doing, but that's more as in a co-opted and not in an NHD capacity. So perhaps committee services, when you're looking at revising, you could just strike out that there is no council nomination required for that. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Munster, did you have wording for us?
I do indeed, and I just want to thank the committee for their support on this matter. It is really appreciated, and I know that the residents of Kimpton will be incredibly pleased to hear that. The wording is that North Hertfordshire District Council regrets the proposal to close the Kimpton surgery and requests that the CCG, or Herts and West Essex Integrated Care Board, of which I believe it is going to be known, effective tomorrow, and Bridge Cottage Surgery looks at a pragmatic solution to ensure that NHS services remain both local and accessible to residents. Is there anything wrong with that wording, James?
So that's, you're referring to council. So it'd be the Southern Rural Committee are referring to council, not North Herts Council. It would then be, if it was voted at council, that they would then be approving that as North Herts Council, I think.
I have made the relevant amendments, and that it will begin that Southern Rural Committee.
We referred from the Southern Rural Committee to, and the motion would be that this council regrets. So there would be the full council that regrets.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yes, my understanding would be that
if it's worth it, I worded something very similar. That this council regrets the proposal of the NHS to close the surgery in Kimpton and urges the CCG to take urgent action to withdraw this proposal and ensure that the residents of Kimpton and surrounding rural communities can readily access important medical care. That was pretty good, wasn't it?
Very good, Councillor Barnard.
Okay. Councillor Munster, as Councillor Barnard is the proposer, are you happy to go with Councillor Barnard's wording?
I'm more than happy to go with Councillor Barnard's wording, so I do second the proposal.
Okay. Are there any further comments on the proposal? Or in which case, I would like to move to a vote.
Chair, this motion is carried.
Oh, fantastic. In which case, my understanding is that that will be referred to full council. Are there any further ward matters on which members would like to report?
You might want to mention about the council support or the training.
Yes. In which case, as a final mention, I will point out that I recently attended training on the new councillors portal tool. I believe there's another training session coming up for this for any councillors that missed that. it does look to be a very useful tool, especially for newer councillors that don't quite have the mental map of the council fully ingrained yet. The primary use for me seemed to be that it automatically triages your casework into the relevant officers, which I know when I first started as a councillor would have been extremely useful, and saved a lot of officers' time me ringing around asking who I should talk to about something. Unless there are any other ward matters, in that case, I will close the meeting at 8:26. Thank you all.